Welcome back, everybody. I wanted to do another video, sort of a follow-up to why narcissists target INFJs and ENFJs. And in this video on the subject, I want to get into the reason why they target us on the basis of that INFJs and ENFJs are agents of change. Of all types of people, we are the most likely to challenge the status quo, and we're looking to help people and not doing it to be in a spotlight. Narcissists hate that. The main reason being is the narcissist needs their system to function. They need their system of support, their flying monkeys, their enablers, and a lot of times they need the specific area they live in. Most narcissists I've found, this is anecdotal, but they've lived in the same place their whole life, and they're a member of what's known as the quote unquote good old boys club. And a lot of the times they owe their success in life to nepotism or inherited wealth. And without, that family name or that good old boys club or, that nepotism from previous generations, they wouldn't be able to function. Meaning, if the narcissist for some reason had to move away from the area they grew up and go somewhere where they didn't know anybody and had no connections and, were forced to survive and try to thrive solely on their own merit, they couldn't do it. And deep down, they know that. They'll never face it, but they know that. And that's the reason why they don't like INFJs and ENFJs. They don't like our potential in charisma, our leadership potential, because they know if we ever, get into a position of power, if, we get to a point where people will listen to us and listen to our ideas and we can try to rally different groups together for change, that'll change, their precious status quo, which they need in order, to be quote unquote on top and look down on everybody else, including us. Now, a lot of times they'll try to discredit us and not even let us speak. That's the root to a lot of times they'll label INFJs as mentally ill. That's a very common thing amongst the community is, they'll view us as crazy, particularly bipolar. And a lot of times we'll get tested and that's just not true. ENFJs, they'll label you as overly emotional and needy when, that's not true as well. Again, empaths are in a lot of ways the narcissist's greatest enemy because our ability to be empathic, we can relate to people better than most. And because we actually can feel the emotions of others, that gives us a greater drive to try to help them and to try to cause the change needed and break up these corrupt status quos, whatever they may be. So being an educated empath and knowing about ourselves, knowing what our personalities are, knowing to trust our intuition, and knowing the tactics of a narcissist is vitally important if we're to help, as many people as we can and to try to change the status quo in some ways. Now, some tactics that the narco use, they'll try to not let you speak. They'll try to discredit you even before you can get your point across. Basically, it goes back to the point of we're not allowed to be right, no matter what proof we have, no matter how, educated or well-read on the subject we are, what we say isn't right solely because we're the ones saying it. And by contrast, they can speak in pure, platitudes or just straight up pull shit out of their ass that's been disproven and easily disproven, but they believe because they're the ones saying it, and they're these grandiose, great people of authority, and they've done so much because they say it that it matters. It doesn't. And people realize that, it's one of the flaws of a narcissist that they can't see. They don't realize over time how many people catch on to their lies, especially people with good memories, and how many people, know they're full of shit and just, let them talk because it's easier to just, let them talk and basically not give them any credit than to try to call them out. But I believe after a certain point, you do need to call them out because it's always good to hold that mirror up to the narcissist and make them face the truth in their self. And they wither when they have to face that, they're not this, big shot that they believe they are. And even better is when they can see that the majority of people around them no longer believe their lies. So then their whole delusional world is shattered. Now, why do I say that that's a good thing? Because it does give some self-satisfaction. While no contact is always the best method in dealing with a narcissist, especially a narcissistic system, calling them out in when you cannot leave or you at least have to be in a low contact position will for a time get them off the attack. Because, Another thing with us INFJs and ENFJs is we're very hard on ourselves. We're very critical on ourselves. We have trouble setting boundaries, and we have self-esteem issues. And a lot of that stems from, the narcissistic abuse that a lot of us faced in our lives. Why we're so hard on ourselves? Because everything that we've done, those of us that have been narcissistically abused, has been criticized and belittled and demeaned solely because we were the ones doing it or saying it, or that it was important to us. So they try to strip anything of any meaning because they don't want us to be successful, especially, in fields where we can help people, like, fire, EMS, medicine, teaching, politics, anything where we can potentially force change, because again, that'll hurt their precious status quo, and they can't have that because they can't survive without things staying exactly the way they are. So they'll try to put us down at everything we do. They'll try to demean our accomplishments. They'll try to say that, oh, that everybody does that. Or, if you've ever noticed, as an INFJ or ENFJ who's been narcissistically abused, you ever notice how, when you get an accomplishment, like in academics or win an award or something, it's no big deal, it doesn't matter. But when somebody else does the exact same thing you did, or even something like a little lesser, suddenly it's the greatest thing that ever happened. It's like, oh, wait, when I won that award in college, it didn't mean shit. But now, when somebody in the good old boys club did it, it's like the fucking Nobel Prize. Double standards galore, and I've done a video on double standards with narcissism. They're rampant. So with boundaries, yeah, the narcissists know that as INFJs and ENFJs, we're not good with setting boundaries, especially when we're younger. And that's something we have to learn how to do, knowing that we can say no. And this is especially true in our careers, especially in a career we're very passionate about, and where we fear we're saying no in a situation could potentially ruin our career. Honestly, in this day and age, the best thing to do is to stand up to the person, especially if other people around you, like other coworkers, are whispering in your ear, like, that's not right, they can't make you do that. Be the leader that you are and call it out. Because I know from experience, when you call out a narcissist who has power, and they view power, their favorite thing about power is the ability to exploit someone. They get off on exploiting people, especially empaths. Like the degradation, it's like a drug for them. The ability to make somebody do something they don't want to do, or even better for them, to violate their personal code of ethics or morals, or compromise their integrity. Like they get off on it. It's like, the greatest turn on ever for them. Now, the one flaw in that is that they're so used to getting their way, and they're so grandiose and narcissistic and delusional, that they believe, no one will ever say no to them, and there's nothing they can do. However, when you do it, when you actually call them out, they can't handle it because they're not used to it. They're not used to people standing up to them. And when you do it, they crumble. They'll stutter, they'll stumble, and they'll usually concede. Especially, as I mentioned, when, like other coworkers, for example, are whispering in your ear that something's not right, or they can't make you do that. Because usually they're just waiting, those coworkers are just waiting for somebody else to make the first move. So INFJs, ENFJs, be the leader in the situation. Be the first one to speak up. And you'll see most of the time others will speak up too. And you'll see how fast, that narcissist is reprimanded, or if not removed from that position, and that, permanent changes are made in that industry. I'd like to go into deeper detail and give an example about this, but it is still a pending matter, in a certain building where robes and gavels are. I briefly go into it in the last video of the videos done about my narcissistic abuse. You can check that out if you want. This topic in particular that I just mentioned, I will go into detail one day, but for obvious reasons that I'm being vague about, I'm not going to right now. Now, back to, the status quo. Narcissists believe, the status quo is perfect, like unquestionable. Like you can't even question it. It is what it is, and it is what it is for a reason. Everything's like this for a reason. If you call them out on why it is the way it is, they'll just spew platitudes because they don't want to have to defend it, because because to them it's perfect. Even if it's, exploiting other people, it's keeping them at the top. The rig system, the good old boys club, the nepotism is keeping them at the top. And that's all that matters, because, narcissists deep down only care about themselves. They care about themselves, and they care about others, how others view them. They give the facade sometimes of philanthropy and empathy, but it's really not there. If you pay attention, to a narcissist in fields like medicine or, fire, EMS, police, teaching, you'll notice that, they never really do much to help anybody when they can't be seen doing it. In other words, like, they never help someone just to help them. If they can't get the credit for it or the spotlight for it, they're not going to do it. Like an example in the fire and EMS field, notice how, if you ever been in that field, or if you ever, just been around in a fire or rescue scene, the narcissist won't be the one that's, trying to get the tools out or get the job done as quickly as they can, or doing whatever, the chief officer tells them. No, they'll be the one that's volunteering to go be the media representative to talk to the press and, make sure that they make themselves sound as important as possible. The ones that are there to truly help people, we won't, give 2 seconds to a news crew. We'll basically tell them to get off the fire scene, that they don't belong here and it's unsafe. The narcissist, though, you'll see them be, suddenly they'll be the nicest person ever, and they're always the one holding the department together. Like, oh, I do all this. I like the department wouldn't function if they were gone. They're the nucleus. It's always entertaining to see. It's very hollow and superficial, and most people see right through it. So with changing the status quo, again, INFJs and ENFJs, use your charisma. You have the ability to bring people who think differently together. Why we have that ability, I really don't know, but we do. And we have to try to bring people to some type of common ground. It's not always easy, but change is very important to us, and making the best positive change for the most people is important to us. So it's best first to make the people who, agree with us that there needs to be some change. That's the first step, is make as many people as possible agree that there needs to be some change, and why. Always go into why. Always show them why the status quo is corrupt, why it's outdated, especially if you're talking in terms of like changing like a municipality's government or a county government. Go to the money. Go to the money. Just explain to most people how tax dollars are being wasted. That'll bring conservatives and liberals together. Like, look how outdated and inefficient this is. Yeah. So always, try to bring as many people together as possible. And when you have as many people as that as possible together, that's the time to call out the good old boys. Because like I said, a lot of times the majority of the good old boys clubs are narcissists, or they're flying monkeys, or they're enablers. And the nucleus of that group will be typically narcissistic people who lie. And, people have caught them in lies, and call them out. Call them out. When you know that they've told different stories to different people, eventually you'll get that opportunity where all the different people they lied to are together, and call them out, and they won't be able to handle it. They'll crumble. They'll crumble and back off, and that'll shatter that delusion that they're, Mr. So important. And a lot of times that'll be when you're able to get some type of change in. But most importantly, INFJs and ENFJs, trust your intuition. If you're ever in a situation where you're made to feel like you can't say no, and your intuition is telling you that they can't make you do this, that you can stand up for yourself, you're right. You are. Yes, while it's true that our intuition is not 100% right, I've read the studies that say our introverted intuition is correct about 85% of the time. And you really, in life, you can't get much better odds than 85%. So take the leap and stand up for yourself. Always trust your intuition. It usually will not let you down. See you guys next time.